Hi, welcome to the Energy and Balance podcast. My name is Michelle, and today we are going to explore shadow work and the crystals that can help you when you're working through these shadows within yourself. Now, before we start, let's have a quick look at what exactly is shadow work. Shadow work was first introduced by Carl Jung, and how he described it was, it is the unconscious side of the personality containing traits we struggle to acknowledge. So what that means is, from past experiences and things that have happened in past lives and this life, we have had things that have hurt us. We have had things that have disturbed us, made us feel unsafe. And when that has happened, we have buried those things deep inside us. And that affects, they're always there. They're always that little voice that's saying, oh, you shouldn't do that. And it's saying you shouldn't do that because of something that's happened in the past around that subject that has given you a negative effect over trying it again in the future. So when we talk about working with shadow work from a spiritual perspective nowadays, what that actually means is we want to take a look at what's holding us back. We want to take a look at these blockages, and we want to acknowledge them, and we want to be able to work our way through them so that we are able to move forward and stop repeating the patterns, the life patterns that we keep getting stuck on. Now, shadow work can be quite confronting when you're working with it because you're looking at things that have really affected you in the past and have left this mark on you at some level. So what can trigger some of these things are unprocessed grief and trauma, anger and resentment over things that have happened previously, where you're feeling shame, guilt, grief over an occurrence from the past. You've also got jealousy and competitiveness and suppressed desires, because at some point someone said, oh, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't want that. And so you've had to suppress them, and it's caused blockages that are not allowing things into your life. Then you've got things like fear of abandonment and rejection. Self-sabotaging habits. Most self-sabotaging habits, or I could probably say all come from blockages that we have from things that we have suppressed from experiences in our past. Parts of our personality that were criticized or shamed in childhood. Now, this is a big one, particularly around money or around getting ahead or around a lot of different things, because unknowingly at some point in your past, over your childhood, a teacher, a parent, a friend, whatever, said something to you that stuck with you that basically said, oh, I can't do that. So these are the types of things that we're exploring and looking at when we're dealing with shadow work. There's also limited belief about your own self-worth and hidden strengths. Sometimes what are hidden strengths are not perceived as strengths by us. What they are perceived as is seen negatively or as weaknesses. And what these strengths are, or what shadow work allows us to do with these strengths, is identify why we're not seeing them as strengths, how we can use them as strengths, and letting go what those blockages are around them. Now, from what I've just said, I'm sure you can totally understand why shadow work matters, why recognizing and exploring these things is an important part of your own self-development and evolution, because we're breaking the repetitive cycles. And at the same time, we're healing those emotional wounds. Because let's face it, with every shadow we have within us that we want to work on, something has happened to injure us, to hurt us in the past. It's also about strengthening our personal boundaries. Now, when you strengthen your personal boundaries, you are becoming a more resilient person. A lot of things will bounce off you that might have triggered or affected you in the past, and they don't hold that emotional damage. It's also about increasing self-awareness, feeling more grounded and more authentic in who you are. Because a lot of the time when we're dealing with shadow work, we're dealing with conflict. We don't always know why that's happened in the past or why we feel that way until we start to explore it a little bit. And so you've got that conflict of why? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this here? Why am I having such strong emotions to it? Now, how crystals can actually work to support shadow work is a lot of the time when we're in these vulnerable states of confronting these blockages and confronting these things that have happened previously, we need some protection. We need some higher awareness. We need some calming down so that we can work our way through it. And that's exactly the energy that I have chosen to put through in the different crystals. Now, I've balanced them out right the way through so that it's protecting and transmuting some of the energy. It's bringing peace and calm through. It's strengthening your grounding and protection so that you can do this. It's also encouraging emotional release so that you can progress on and just be healthier with who you are. It's also supporting once all of those blockages are gone. Sometimes we need to reintegrate and rebalance who we are so that we can move forward in a lot more peace and calming manner. Now, the first crystal in my top crystals for shadow work is smoky quartz. The reason smoky quartz is there is because straight away you know it's that deeply grounding and stabilizing energy. It helps to transmute all of those emotional, overwhelming feelings that can just bombard you sometimes. And it brings you back down and really helps you be grounded in who you are so that you can feel calmer, more protected, more grounded, and work your way through confronting these highly emotional things. The next one is amethyst. Now, the reason amethyst is there is because sometimes we don't recognize our own higher self and the higher perception. And amethyst is there to help bring through the clarity of the situation so that we can pinpoint exactly why we have these shadows and helping you go into your intuition, and so that during meditation and just even subconsciously working on it, allowing you to go back and pinpoint exactly where it happened and what happened so that you can move forward and really tackle what's gone on. Now, the next one is obsidian. Obsidian is giving you the strength. Obsidian is a protection stone, but it is also a very high and powerful truth revealer. It's with a lot of your shadow work. Some people will work with obsidian scrying mirrors so that they can meditate in them and actually see deeper into their past and work through. So it is all about revealing these hidden things that you have within yourself that are causing you blockages, causing you not to be able to move forward. It's helping you really slice through that illusion, that denial, that self-deception that life is going along fine, and yet you've got these things that you really need to explore in depth so that you can move forward. The next stone is rhodonite. Rhodonite is a really important one. If you use any of the ones up above so that you're recognizing what's actually happening, your grounding, your protection, anything else, I really do suggest that you throw rhodonite into the mix. The reason I suggest that is because it is all about forgiving yourself, but also learning how to forgive the other people that have been around you and have caused these things. You might bring up an incident when you were 5 years old, when your best friend said something horrible to you that has stuck with you your entire life that you haven't even realized. And you haven't realized you're holding resentment against her, but it's affecting what you're doing nowadays. And this allows you to forgive yourself for not being able to move past that point. And it also allows you to forgive that person. Because most of the time when people do these things or say these things, they're not doing it to hurt you. It's where they're coming from, and it's their own personal observation. Now, you don't have to take that on board, that observation, because you can let it go and stop giving it power and let it stop affecting you. And that is what rhodonite is about. The next one is lepidolite. Now, lepidolite is for that calming. When we're going through all of this turmoil, and yes, shadow work is going to be bringing up some difficult stuff for you. If you decide to go down the path and work with it, you are going to, it's a journey. And you are going to be feeling anxiety and stress and completely out of balance. But what lepidolite does is it helps you stop feeling so much anxiety and lessening the effect of the triggers as you're working your way through it. It helps you to regulate the intensity of the emotional stress and everything that's going on around you so that you can be more peaceful in where you are and what you want to do. Our next one is black jet. Now, when we're in these situations, you are not going to feel safe sometimes. You are not going to feel grounded. You are going to feel all over the place and like your world has been rocked a little bit. Black jet is there to help you deal with grief. Now, you are going to be dealing with grief when you go through some of this stuff because you've held on to it for so long, and working through it is going to allow you to release it and release the grief that you feel over what's happened. It brings through that protection and that grounding, and it really does give you a very deep level of emotional support. I am a massive fan of black jet. It doesn't seem to be as popular out there at the moment, but any time where you feel like you're losing something, and you can when you're releasing some shadow work, because this is something that's been a part of you and you've held on for so long. And so there can be that uncertainty and that grief before you move through it. It's a part of the process. And black jet is really going to help you right the way through it. Now, one of the major things with shadow work is a journal. Now, the reason that a journal is just so important when you're doing with shadow work is because it allows you to write down, sometimes when we're meditating, sometimes when we're working through things, and it can be as simple as you're driving down the car and your mind is working through something. You're driving down the road and the mind is just working its way. And you're coming up with different things and different reasons, and you've got this point that you then want to explore further. And our mind is a really funny thing, that it allows us to forget things. We're suddenly thinking about something else and doing something else, and something else is happening, and what seemed like an epiphany and seemed so important at the time when we remembered it is suddenly gone. And by having a specific journal for shadow work allows you to write down and progress through your different shadows. And it really does help for you to objectively be able to look back, and it allows you to move and to progress through everything. Now, the next one is using affirmations. Affirmations or intentions are a major part. You'll find them in most of my podcasts, all over my website. It is all about you setting the intention for what you want to do. So once you've got the awareness of what your shadow you want to work on, let's say someone said when you were 8 years old that you shouldn't eat that or you'll get fat. And so you have had this shadow down there that has revolved around food and the way you eat it, the way you do everything with it. And that has affected your weight. You've suddenly gone up and down, up and down, up and down all of your life. And that's because you eat normally and then something triggers in the back of your mind and goes, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. It's going to make me fat. Because of something someone said way back then has affected you your entire life. And recognizing these things, and with keeping your journal and then writing out intentions or affirmations so that you can change that road work, change those pathways in your mind that you've held for so long. The first part of dealing with shadow work is always recognizing where you're holding a shadow and then working out where you're coming from. Now, you can also put together your grids, and a lot of the time in your shadow work, the reason I put grids in is because it's about protection. And this is when you're feeling very insecure, unsafe, and out of your comfort zone. So having that protection, particularly while you're meditating or with your intention set or whatever you like, is going to help you focus on and keep in mind that you really are protected and grounded, that even though you might feel unsafe while exploring these things, you are protected. With meditation is, I've gone through the different levels of what you can do. And meditation is where you explore. You have something that you know is going on, and I can't lose weight or whatever the situation is. I'm keeping that because we've touched on it earlier. And so you go into your meditation and you might have, say, black jet or smoky quartz at your feet so that you're anchored and feel protected. You're holding lepidolite in one hand, amethyst in the other. And you're meditating on something that's happened, a blockage that you know you've got. And you're taking yourself back and you're exploring around that situation so that you can fully work with it and find out what's going on. And then, of course, once you come out of that meditation, or is when you will then put it down, your findings, into your journal to work the way through. If you are triggered by something, and when you are triggered by something, that usually means there is some shadow around it. So the trigger can, and sometimes these triggers can be a panic attack, they can be everything that happens. And it's quite often that you are triggered because someone says something you're talking to, and it's a shadow that you have. So when you're working with shadow work, become much more aware of everything that's happening around you and what actually unsettles you a little bit. What makes you go, I don't like that. Oh, yeah. Oh, why'd they do that? Man, I don't understand why they did that. That's just the wrong thing to do. And these things that you get that strong emotional reaction over are usually the shadows you're carrying. And it does help if you carry around a grounding stone when you're working through this and becoming more aware of it, because you can pick up that grounding stone and you can take a few deep breaths, recognize exactly why you're doing it, or recognize that it is shadow work you need to work on, and what the trigger was, what happened to make that trigger to go right the way through. Now, shadow work is a long process. We don't, if we all had one shadow, we would be so peaceful and calm, and suddenly just one thing every 6 months would happen. But through past experiences and dealing with everyone around us and things that have happened, we all have multiple shadows. And so deciding to work on shadow work is going to be a journey, but it is a really rewarding journey. It allows you to release all of those things and get rid of those blockages that you're holding and be able to move forward and really expand the fullness of your life. Instead of that blockages, work out what the triggers are and work on them so that you're not going to be triggered moving forward. And you don't have to hold this stress, this anxiety, this everything else. But as you release each one of these shadows, each one of these triggers, you can bring through a more calming, more peaceful energy. All right, so that was all about shadow work. Now, we all have shadow work. We are all holding blockages. I don't think you are human unless you are. So please, if you've found anything useful in this that can help you and you feel like you can take something away from it, then please share it. Like my YouTube channel and Spotify, and share them around if you can. All right then, that's this week's podcast, which is all about shadow work and the crystals to use with it. As always, have a fantastic week, and next week we'll be looking at, well, you'll just have to tune in and see. Have a good one. See ya.